Chapter 7. Greek Fire in the Byzantine Empire, 7th century CE. Secret Weapons of War. The invention of Greek fire stands as one of the most mysterious and impactful technological advances in ancient warfare. Developed by the Byzantine Empire in the 7th century CE, this incendiary weapon played a critical role in the defense of the empire, allowing the Byzantines to fend off naval invasions from the Arabs, Slavs, and other foes who threatened their dominance. Greek fire was not only a physical weapon but also a psychological one, striking fear into the hearts of enemy sailors as it clung to ships and continued to burn even on water. The potency of this technology gave the Byzantines a powerful edge in naval battles and helped protect the empire during some of its most vulnerable periods. The secrecy surrounding Greek fire, its exact composition remains unknown to this day, underscored its importance as a tool of military superiority. Like many other historical examples of technological advantages, the possession of Greek fire allowed the Byzantine Empire to maintain control over its territories and preserve its sovereignty. However, this chapter will also examine how such technological monopolies, when closely guarded, often created power imbalances and contributed to wider inequalities, setting a precedent for later forms of technological hoarding. The Byzantine Empire, surviving in the world of enemies. By the 7th century CE, the Byzantine Empire centered in Constantinople was under siege. The once expansive Eastern Roman Empire was rapidly losing territory to the rising powers of the Islamic Caliphate, the Slavs, and the Avars. The Byzantines faced repeated threats from both land and sea as hostile forces closed in on the empire's critical positions, particularly around the Mediterranean. The Byzantine capital, Constantinople, held a strategic advantage due to its location on the Bosphorus Strait, which provided access to both Europe and Asia, as well as control over the Mediterranean and Black Seas. This position was vital for trade and defense, but it also made the city a prime target for naval assaults. Naval power was becoming increasingly important in the region as invaders, particularly the expanding Arab Caliphate, sought to breach the defenses of Constantinople by sea. It was against this backdrop of existential threats that Greek fire was developed. Though much of the historical record surrounding its invention is unclear, Greek fire is attributed to Callinicus of Heliopolis, a Byzantine architect and chemist who fled the Arab invasions in the 7th century. The invention came at a critical time, as the Byzantine fleet was struggling to defend its waters and maintain control over key maritime trade routes. Greek fire was a game-changer. Unlike other weapons of the time, which relied on brute force or sharp steel, Greek fire was a terrifying incendiary compound that could be launched from ships and even continued to burn on water, making it particularly effective against enemy fleets. The Byzantines used it with devastating effect, notably in their defense of Constantinople against two major Arab sieges, in 674, 678 CE and 717-718 CE. In both cases, Greek fire helped the Byzantines turn the tide of battle and preserve their empire. The science and mystery of Greek fire. Despite its significance in Byzantine military history, the exact composition and method of production of Greek fire remain one of the great mysteries of ancient technology. The Byzantines guarded the secret of Greek fire closely, and no complete record of its formula has survived. Historians and scientists have speculated that it may have been made from a combination of petroleum, quicklime, sulfur, and other ingredients, but these remain educated guesses. What is known is that Greek fire could be deployed through specialized siphons mounted on Byzantine ships, which allowed the empire's navy to project this deadly substance onto enemy vessels from a distance. Some accounts also suggest that Greek fire could be contained in jars that were hurled at enemy ships, breaking open and igniting on contact. Once lit, the fire was almost impossible to extinguish with water, Reports from the time described the flames as continuing to burn even on the surface of the sea. The secret of Greek fire was so closely guarded that even within the Byzantine Empire, knowledge of its production was restricted to a small group of specialists, likely working under the emperor's direct control. The secrecy surrounding Greek fire ensured that it remained a uniquely Byzantine weapon for centuries, conferring a substantial military advantage over the empire's enemies, particularly in naval warfare. However, the monopoly on Greek fire also meant that its production was highly centralized and vulnerable. If the formula were lost or its specialists died, the technology could disappear. This reliance on secrecy reflected a broader trend in history, where powerful technologies were hoarded by a select few, creating inequalities between those who possessed the technology and those who did not. Greek fire in action. The Arab Sieges of Constantinople, by Paul Kitts and Terry Gantrell. The most famous and consequential use of Greek fire occurred during the Arab Sieges of Constantinople in the late 7th and early 8th centuries. The Umayyad Caliphate, having rapidly expanded its territories across the Middle East and North Africa, set its sights on the Byzantine capital. Control of Constantinople would have granted the Arabs control over the Bosporus, a vital maritime passage, and potentially the entire Mediterranean. In the siege of 674-678 CE, the Arab navy attempted to blockade Constantinople from the sea, while Arab armies laid siege to the city from the land. For years, the Byzantines struggled to defend their walls and waters, but it was Greek fire that ultimately turned the tide. The Byzantine fleet, equipped with siphons capable of launching Greek fire at the enemy ships, inflicted devastating losses on the Arab navy. The burning liquid clung to wooden ships, consuming them and sending Arab sailors fleeing in terror. The successful use of Greek fire in this first siege forced the Umayyad Caliphate to withdraw, preserving Constantinople and the Byzantine Empire for another century. The Arab forces would try again in 717-718 CE, this time with a larger army and more coordinated naval support. Once again, Greek fire played a decisive role in repelling the invaders. The Byzantine navy set fire to dozens of Arab ships, breaking the naval blockade and ensuring the survival of Constantinople. The psychological effect of Greek fire was as significant as its physical impact. The sight of enemy ships engulfed in flames, with the fire continuing to burn even on the water, instilled terror in Byzantium's foes. The weapon's fearsome reputation helped to deter future naval assaults on Constantinople for centuries. The role of Greek fire in Byzantine naval dominance. Greek fire was not only used defensively, but also offensively, as the Byzantines sought to project their power across the Mediterranean. Throughout the 8th and 9th centuries, Byzantine fleets equipped with Greek fire patrolled the empire's waters, protecting trade routes and asserting Byzantine control over key maritime territories. In the naval battles of the time, Greek fire provided a critical advantage against both Arab fleets and Slavic raiders. While other navies relied on ramming tactics or boarding parties to seize enemy vessels, the Byzantines could strike from a distance, setting enemy ships ablaze before they could even approach. This allowed the Byzantine navy to maintain control over the Aegean and eastern Mediterranean, despite facing numerically superior forces in many engagements. Greek fire became a symbol of Byzantine military prowess and technological ingenuity. The Byzantines' ability to dominate the seas with this weapon helped to stabilize the empire during a period of intense external pressure. It also reinforced the notion that Byzantium, the heir to the Roman Empire, was a civilization of both military and intellectual superiority, capable of developing and wielding advanced technologies to defend itself against all comers. However, the reliance on Greek fire also created a vulnerability. The Byzantines' naval dominance was closely tied to their control over this technology, and as knowledge of Greek fire began to fade in the later centuries of the empire, so too did their naval power. By the 12th century, the secrets of Greek fire had been lost, and the Byzantines struggled to maintain their dominance over the Mediterranean as other powers, such as the Venetians and Genoese, rose to prominence. The secrecy and monopoly of Greek fire. The strict secrecy surrounding Greek fire was central to its effectiveness. The Byzantine emperors and their military leaders understood that their technological advantage would be neutralized if the secret of Greek fire fell into enemy hands. As a result, the formula for Greek fire was one of the most closely guarded state secrets of the Byzantine Empire. Unlike other technologies that gradually spread through trade or conquest, Greek fire remained uniquely Byzantine throughout its history. The formula was never fully replicated by Byzantium's enemies, and efforts to reverse engineer the weapon were unsuccessful. This monopoly on such a powerful military technology gave the Byzantines a distinct advantage, allowing them to fend off invasions that might otherwise have overwhelmed their forces. However, this secrecy also came with risks. The Byzantine Empire's reliance on a small group of specialists to produce and deploy Greek fire meant that the loss of this knowledge could be catastrophic. There are indications that over time, the production of Greek fire became increasingly rare, and by the 12th century, the knowledge of how to produce it had been lost entirely. This phenomenon, where the secrecy of a powerful technology eventually leads to its disappearance, mirrors other historical cases where tightly controlled technological knowledge was hoarded by a select few. Such monopolies often create short-term advantages, but can result in long-term vulnerability if the knowledge is not shared or passed down. In the case of Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's technological edge faded as the centuries passed, contributing to its eventual decline as a naval power. Greek fire and technological inequality. The story of Greek fire is a prime example of how access to advanced technology can create significant inequalities between civilizations. The Byzantine Empire's control over Greek fire gave it a military advantage that allowed it to fend off invasions and preserve its sovereignty during a period when other empires were crumbling. This technological advantage was not shared with the empire's rivals, and the Byzantines' ability to monopolize Greek fire allowed them to maintain their dominance over the Mediterranean for centuries. At the same time, the secrecy surrounding Greek fire contributed to a broader pattern of inequality within the empire itself. The production and deployment of Greek fire were controlled by the state, and its use was restricted to the elite units of the Byzantine navy. This centralization of technological knowledge reinforced the power of the emperor and the military elite, who could wield this devastating weapon against both external enemies and internal rivals. The disparity between those who possessed Greek fire and those who did not highlights the ways in which technological advancements can concentrate power in the hands of a few. Throughout history, those who have controlled the most advanced technologies, whether it be bronze weapons, iron tools, or AI systems, have often used that control to maintain dominance over others. The Byzantines' monopoly on Greek fire is a stark reminder of how technology can both empower and divide. The legacy of Greek fire. Although the formula for Greek fire has been lost to history, its legacy endures. The weapon is remembered not only for its effectiveness in battle, but also for the aura of mystery and fear that surrounded it. Greek fire became the archetype for a secret weapon, a technological marvel that could decisively alter the course of history when wielded by those who possessed it. In many ways, Greek fire set a precedent for the development and use of advanced military technologies in later centuries. The quest for secret, game-changing weapons has been a constant in warfare, from the development of gunpowder in medieval China to the nuclear arms race of the 20th century. In each case, the control of such technologies has shaped the balance of power between nations and created new forms of inequality. Today, as we enter the age of artificial intelligence, the lessons of Greek fire remain relevant. The control of advanced technologies, whether they are used for military, economic, or social purposes, can create significant disparities between those who have access to these tools and those who do not. Just as the Byzantines relied on Greek fire to maintain their dominance, modern nations and corporations are increasingly reliant on AI to maintain their competitive edge. The challenge, as always, is to ensure that these technologies are not hoarded by a few but are used to benefit all of humanity. Conclusion. Greek fire was one of the most formidable and mysterious weapons of the ancient world. Its development gave the Byzantine Empire a decisive military advantage at a time when its very survival was in question. By monopolizing the production and use of Greek fire, the Byzantines were able to maintain control over their territories, fend off powerful enemies, and project their power across the Mediterranean. However, the secrecy surrounding Greek fire also created vulnerabilities. The Byzantine Empire's reliance on a small group of specialists to produce the weapon ultimately led to its disappearance, and the loss of this technology contributed to the empire's decline as a naval power. The story of Greek fire is a powerful reminder of how the control of advanced technologies can both empower and divide. As we move into the age of artificial intelligence, the lessons of Greek fire are more relevant than ever. Just as the Byzantines used their technological advantage to maintain their dominance, modern societies must grapple with the question of who controls advanced technologies and how those technologies are used. Ensuring that AI